Rick Wershe says he never deserved the name White Boy Rick because he was never a big-time drug kingpin. And now he's getting support from someone you'd never suspect. Rick Wershe was a 17-year-old kid with a wicked nickname, White Boy Rick. He was a drug dealer in Detroit, but not the kingpin the police, prosecutors, and media made him out to be.
Rick was nowhere near me. From a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 10. I say he was about a 2. Rick couldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. They was making this boy way bigger than he was. And I used to say, where is they getting this stuff from?
A new HBO documentary currently under production by Transition Studios and award-winning producer Sean Reck is the story of Rick Wershe, Michigan's longest-serving nonviolent juvenile offender. Wershe was busted at 17 years old with 8 kilos of cocaine, and he's still in prison 28 years later.
He's not what they said he was, and what they made him was made by the cops.
Law enforcement created almost a perfect criminal. I'm sorry to tell you that the legend of White Boy Rick is just not true.
As part of the HBO documentary called 650 Lifer, Reck tracked down Johnny Curry, who by his own accounts was a real drug kingpin in Detroit. He says Wershe was small time and should have been out of prison decades ago.
I did way more than he could possibly have done to get that kind of a sentence. I say Rick should have did 7, 8 years and been home. Should have been home 20 years ago.
I called Rick Wershe, who's currently at the Oaks Correctional Facility, to ask him about the HBO project and the endorsement from Johnny Curry.
It surprises me a little bit, but I just think that he knows, again, that I was never what I was made him to be, and he's probably just, trying to do the right thing or tell the truth. It was 30 years ago.
It's an odd endorsement because Rick Wershe was a teenage informant tipping off police to drug dealers starting at the age of 14. Eventually, Wershe would help police make a case against Johnny Curry that sent Curry to prison. And when Curry did go to prison, Rick Wershe moved in with Johnny Curry's wife, Kathy Volson Curry, who was the niece of then Mayor Coleman A. Young.
He was gone, and I hooked up with his wife. I mean, was it the smart thing to do? Probably not, but I don't think he holds it against me 30 years later.
Wershe was sentenced to life in prison. Later, the court said juvenile drug dealers must have a chance at parole. He's still locked up 20 years after first going in. Some say Mayor Young didn't like Wershe with his niece. Young called Wershe a stool pigeon when Wershe gave police information on the mayor's bodyguard. Others say Wershe's real enemy is recently deceased police officer, city council member, and part-time movie star Gil Hill, who was investigated for taking bribes based on Wershe's testimony.
I think anyone at this point can look at this case and say, listen, something personal's going on. This has nothing to do with the crime in which I was convicted.
Now Johnny Curry is speaking out, saying it's time to let the kid wannabe drug dealer out of prison.
Oh, he did enough time. Murderers, he did more time than murderers. He done served a lot of time for something that he wasn't. Bottom line, for something that he wasn't.
The parole board has refused to act. His next consideration is 2017. Wayne County Circuit Judge Dana Hathaway agreed to resentence Wershe last year, but Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy objected, saying Wershe should do more time. The Court of Appeals agreed. So Rick Wershe remains locked up, hoping the Michigan Supreme Court will see things differently. Transition Studios is hoping to have the documentary out by the end of the year. Hollywood is also making a movie. But Wershe's fastest way out would be with the Michigan Supreme Court, who is expected to rule on Wershe being resentenced any time now. Kevin Dietz, Defenders.